I never thought the sound of boots on my porch could make my blood run cold. I have lived long enough to fear many things. Drought, debt, sickness, the slow bruising silence that comes when a marriage is tired. But nothing prepared me for the sight of that boy standing under the dying evening light. Please click the subscribe button. My grandson, Ethan. He was 18, maybe 19 now. Lean, sharp around the jaw, with eyes that were too old for his young face. A shadow boy, that's what I used to call him. The kind of child who learned too early to carry secrets on his shoulders. But I hadn't seen him in 4 years, ever since my daughter packed what little pride she had left and fled the state with him. She had sworn never to step foot near us again. She had sworn we would never see Ethan again. And yet, there he was, standing on my porch as though he had merely wandered a few miles off. He didn't knock. He just stood with his hand hovering, trembling, as if unsure which version of himself to present, the child who once used to sleep on my chest, or the stranger he had been shaped into. Behind me, inside the house, the old floorboards creaked with the familiar gait of my husband, Thomas, former sheriff of Grey Valley. My husband of 38 years. A man with a voice like thunder wrapped in velvet. A man feared by half the county and respected by the other half. A man who had made enemies. Too many to count. And now, one of them had sent my own blood to kill him. I didn't know that yet. Not fully. But the moment I looked into Ethan's eyes, I felt something tear inside me. Something quiet, thin, instinctive. Something only a grandmother would notice. Ethan wasn't here for love. He was here because someone had sent him. "Grandma," he said, voice cracking a little. I need to talk to you." My heart lurched. That boy used to call me Gran. Not Grandma, like a stranger tasting the word for the first time. "What are you doing here, sweetheart?" I managed, stepping forward. "Where's your mama?" His jaw clenched. "Gone." "Gone where?" "Gone," he repeated, voice flat, eyes elsewhere. Behind me, I heard the slow, heavy steps of Thomas approaching the doorway. And that was when Ethan flinched. Not startled, ready. Like a man bracing for gunfire. That was when the first thread of truth slid, cold and sharp, beneath my ribs. Something was terribly wrong. "Evenin'," Thomas said from behind me, voice steady. His silhouette filled the doorway, broad shoulders blocking the warm yellow light inside the house. Didn't expect company. Ethan didn't look at him. He looked at me. Only at me. Eyes begging, pleading, for something I couldn't name yet. "Grandma," he whispered. "Please. Can we talk alone?" I stepped onto the porch and shut the screen door gently behind me, blocking Thomas inside. My husband said nothing, but I felt his suspicion linger like a second presence on the back of my neck. Ethan dragged a hand through his overgrown hair, shaking slightly. "I don't have much time," he whispered. "They're watching." My breath hitched. "Who's watching?" He swallowed hard. "The men who brought me here." "Brought." Not took him. Not followed him. "Brought." My pulse pounded in my ears. "Ethan," I whispered. "Tell me what's happening." His lip trembled. His eyes glassy with unshed fear. "Grandma. They said if I don't kill him, they'll finish what they started. They'll do to me what they did to my mama." Everything inside me stilled. "Kill him." My mind pushed the words away, but they clung. I shook my head, barely breathing. "Kill who?" This time, his eyes finally lifted toward the screen door, toward the man standing behind it, watching. "Your husband," he whispered. "Grandma. They sent me here to kill Grandpa Thomas." My knees went soft. The porch swayed. I gripped the railing, heart stuttering against my ribs, unable to align the boy in front of me with the sentence he had just spoken. My grandson, my blood, had come to murder the only man I had ever loved. A long silence draped over us. Wind swept across the ranch, rattling the dry grass. Somewhere in the distance, coyotes howled. And the truth settled on my chest like a weight I knew I would carry for the rest of my life. Someone had turned my grandson into a weapon. No. I didn't know how to save him without destroying the life I'd built with Thomas. "Come with me," I whispered, grabbing Ethan's hand. Where? He asked, voice shaking. To decide whether love or fear will make the next move. And as I pulled him inside, the boy sent to kill my husband, I felt every old bone in my body tremble. Because I already knew. Whatever story we were stepping into, it was going to tear our family open from the inside out. I didn't take Ethan into the living room. I didn't dare. The air in that room always carried my husband's authority. Silent, commanding, heavy. Instead, I led the boy toward the back of the house, into the old mudroom where the scent of leather boots, dust, and cedar polish always lingered. I shut the door gently, locking us in as if the thin wood could protect us from whatever threat hovered outside. Ethan sat on the worn bench where Thomas once taught him how to lace riding boots. Now he trembled so hard the wooden frame beneath him creaked. "Ethan," I whispered, kneeling in front of him. "Look at me." He didn't. His eyes darted around the room like a cornered animal, sweat collecting at his brow. "Sweetheart," I said, placing a hand on his shaking knee. "Tell me who sent you." For a moment he said nothing, breathing shallow, ragged. "You remember Sheriff Cutter," he whispered. The name hit me like a thrown stone. Sheriff Boyd Cutter. The man who had taken Thomas's badge from him 10 years ago. The man who had publicly humiliated him, dragged his reputation through the dirt, accused him of coercion and mishandled evidence. The man who had sworn Thomas would pay for ruining the image of Grey Valley's finest. They were rivals long before politics sharpened the blade between them. Cutter was younger, charming, ruthless. The kind of man who smiled with his lips while the hate stayed burning in his eyes. But why would he have anything to do with my grandson? "I haven't seen Cutter in years," I whispered. "Why would he?" "He's not sheriff anymore," Ethan cut in. "He was forced out 2 years back. Got mixed up with some bad business." I studied my grandson carefully. His hands were still trembling. His voice shook with each word, but the fear was real. "What kind of business?" "Yes." Ethan swallowed. "Drugs. People who don't forgive." My breath hitched. "And your mama? She owed them money." His voice cracked. "A lot of money. Cutter convinced her he'd protect us. Said all she had to do was help him with one thing." My heart clenched. I knew what was coming even before he said it. "Hurt Thomas," Ethan whispered. "Destroy him. Ruin him. And when that didn't work," his voice broke. "They came for me." I felt like the room began shrinking around us. "What did they do to her, Ethan?" My voice was barely a breath. He closed his eyes tightly. "When she couldn't pay what she owed, His voice trembled. "They killed her, Grandma." The world stood still. The hum of the old freezer faded. The ticking of the wall clock vanished. My breath sank to the floor, heavy as grief could ever be. "Ethan," I whispered, tears finally burning my eyes. "Baby, why didn't you come to us?" His expression twisted with something like shame. "You think they'd let me?" He shook his head violently. "They told me if I ever came near you, they'd kill me slow. And then they'd come for the people you love." He sucked in a shaking breath. "But when they realized Cutter's plan wasn't working, they made a new one." My pulse pounded so loudly I could barely hear my own voice. "What new plan?" His eyes lifted to mine, haunted. "Make Thomas pay with blood." He swallowed hard. "Make me deliver it." Coldness wrapped around my spine. "Cutter said Thomas destroyed his life," Ethan whispered. "He said Grandpa took everything from him. His title, his marriage, his reputation. And the men who control him now. They want to settle old debts. By forcing you," I breathed, "to murder your own grandfather." He nodded slowly. The pain on his face was the kind that comes from being trapped, cornered, owned. The kind of pain I had hoped none of my grandchildren would ever experience. I cupped his face, feeling the tremor beneath his skin. "You didn't kill him," I said. "You came to us instead." He looked away. "I didn't have a choice. They follow me. They watch. If I run, they'll kill me." If I ask for help, they'll kill me. If I fail, he choked on the last words. They'll kill all of us. Silence stretched again, thick and suffocating. I stood slowly, my knees stiff and aching, and pressed my back to the door as if physically guarding it. Outside the mudroom, the house creaked. A faint, steady step moved through the hallway. He was looking for me. I felt trapped between two impossible truths. My husband was in danger. My grandson had been turned into the weapon meant to end him. Ethan, I whispered, do you have anything on you? He hesitated, then nodded. My stomach nodded. What is it? He reached inside his jacket and pulled out something wrapped in an oil-stained cloth. A small revolver. Black, cold, heavy. My breath stopped. They gave me this, he whispered. And they said I had to use it tonight. I stared at the gun, then at his shaking hands. That weapon was never meant to be fired by a child I once rocked to sleep. It didn't belong in the hands of a boy whose only crime was being trapped between desperation and loss. Above us, the floorboards creaked again, closer this time. Thomas had stopped moving. He was listening. Grandma, Ethan whispered near panic. I don't know what to do. I can't kill him. But if I don't, you won't, I said. The certainty in my voice surprised even me. He lifted his eyes slowly. Then what do we do? I moved close, pulling him into a trembling embrace I should have given him years ago. We survive, I whispered. We outthink them. And we protect each other. He pressed his forehead to my shoulder like he was breaking apart. I'm scared, he breathed. So am I whispered. But there's something stronger than fear in this house. What's that? Blood, I said. And the truth. As I opened the door to lead him out of the mudroom, I felt Thomas's shadow waiting just beyond the hallway. And I understood. This night was far from over. It was only beginning. Thomas stood in the hallway like a mountain carved from silence. His arms were folded across his chest, and though his face remained calm, his eyes told a different story. Sharp, assessing, weighted with suspicion. He had heard enough to know something was wrong, but not enough to know the danger breathing on our doorstep. Ethan froze behind me, the revolver hidden inside his jacket pocket like a rattlesnake waiting for the wrong kind of movement. Mind tellin' me, Thomas said slowly, why the boy I helped raise is hidin' in my mudroom with you whispering like something's fixin' to explode? I forced a steady breath. This was the moment everything could shatter. Ethan pressed closer to my back, trembling. I could feel his heartbeat against my spine. Fast, terrified, frantic. Thomas, I said softly, let's go to the kitchen. We all need to talk. He raised a brow. Is that so? It is. His jaw tightened just enough for me to see the old sheriff in him waking up, the man who sniffed out lies like smoke from a distant fire. All right, he said. We moved to the kitchen, neutral ground, though nothing felt neutral anymore. I pulled out a chair for Ethan, and he sat slowly, like every movement risked setting off a trap. Thomas remained standing. That worried me more than anything. Start talkin', he said, his voice low but steady. I glanced at Ethan. His hands were clasped so tightly his knuckles were white. Grandpa, he began. But the word grandpa made him flinch. He wasn't used to saying it anymore. Not after years of running, hiding, fearing. Thomas noticed. It's been a while, he said softer now. Too long. The gentleness in his voice almost broke me. But kindness had no place in what needed to be said next. Ethan swallowed hard. I didn't come here on my own. Thomas's brow furrowed. What does that mean? Ethan lifted his eyes, tears gathering at the edges. I was brought here. Forced. In handcuffs. Thomas asked skeptically. No, Ethan whispered. In debt. That made Thomas go still. The kind of stillness that precedes a storm. What debt? Before I could intervene, Ethan pushed ahead. Mom owed money, he said. A lot. And when she died, Thomas flinched. A small, sharp sound in the back of his throat betrayed the pain he felt. He cared for my daughter more than he ever admitted. They came for me, Ethan continued. And they said there was only one way to clear what Mom owed. Thomas's voice dropped an octave. And what way was that? Ethan hesitated. To kill you. Silence hit the room like a blast wave. Thomas didn't gasp. He didn't swear. He didn't lean back or step away. He simply stared at Ethan, and something ancient and wounded flickered behind his eyes. Who sent you? Thomas asked, his voice dangerously calm. Ethan's lip trembled. Cutter. Thomas closed his eyes for a second. Just 1 second, but I saw the fury ripple beneath his skin when he opened them. Boyd Cutter, Thomas growled. I should have buried that son of a... Thomas, I warned sharply. He bit the inside of his cheek, forcing himself to silence. Ethan looked like he wanted to sink through the floor. They used me, he whispered. They knew you'd never expect me. They knew hurting you through me would destroy you. Thomas leaned forward. Did you come here intending to do it? Ethan's eyes widened with horror. No. Couldn't. I tried to run last night, but they followed me. I thought maybe if I warned Grandma first, we could. He broke off, breath hitching. Thomas stared at him hard. Then he did something that nearly knocked the breath from my lungs. He sat down across from the boy, looked him straight in the face, and said, I don't blame you. Ethan blinked rapidly. What? You came here instead of killing me. That tells me everything I need to know. Thomas folded his hands on the table. But son, you brought danger to my home. That I need you to understand. Ethan lowered his head in shame. I watched the two of them, my husband and my grandson, 2 generations of wounded pride and forced violence sitting across from each other like mirrors cracked in different places. Thomas exhaled. Well, he said finally, there's only one thing to do now. Ethan looked up terrified. What? We deal with Cutter, Thomas said simply. And the men pullin' his strings. The boy swallowed hard. And we do it before they decide to come finish the job themselves. A chill rippled through me. 'Cause Thomas was right. If those men had sent Ethan here, they were already watching, already planning, already waiting for a chance to spill blood on my land. And for the first time since learning the truth, I felt something stronger than fear. A rising, burning certainty. I was not going to let them hurt my family again. Not my husband. Not my grandson. Not a second more. Wind rattled the windows as the evening settled into the bones of the house, the kind of chill that seeped into the walls like a bad omen. Thomas stood at the kitchen window staring out across the ranch, the fading horizon, the sagging barn, the wide stretch of dryland that held too many of our secrets. Ethan sat at the table wringing his hands. He looked so young in that moment. Not the trembling weapon someone else had shaped him into, but a boy who had been forced to grow up on the wrong side of desperation. We don't have much time, Thomas said without turning around. If Cutter sent you, he ain't waitin' long for results. Ethan nodded weakly. They told me you needed to be dead by sunrise. The air froze. Thomas's jaw hardened, his eyes narrowing as though he could see the threat miles away through the glass. Sunrise, he repeated, quiet but lethal. So they're close. I felt a tremor run through my chest. Thomas, we need a plan. And not one of your old sheriff stunts. This is different. He turned, bracing his hands on the counter. The kitchen light carved lines of worry around his eyes, lines I hadn't truly seen until tonight. I know what we're dealing with, he said. This isn't some drunk cattle thief or some boy making trouble in town. This is organized, violent, professional. Ethan swallowed hard. They have rifles. And 2 trucks. There were 4 men besides Cutter. Maybe 5. My blood chilled. Thomas frowned. You know their faces. Some, Ethan said. Others kept masks on. Thomas nodded slowly. Figures. Cutter never had the backbone to get blood on his hands. He's always used other men to do the dirty work. Ethan's voice trembled again. They said if I didn't shoot you tonight, they'd do it. And they'd make me watch. I rested a hand on his shoulder. He flinched, then leaned into me like he hadn't been held in years. Thomas exhaled, long and exhausted. We can't stay here, he said. Not with the house exposed on all sides and no trees to hide behind. This place is a killbox. I looked around. The windows, the doorways, the open spaces that once made this home feel free and airy. Tonight they felt like weak points waiting to be shattered. So where do we go? Asked. Thomas's answer came with a flicker of old memory. The storm cellar. I frowned. We haven't opened that thing in years. That's why it'll work, Thomas said. They won't expect us down there. Ethan looked confused. A storm cellar. Built by her father, Thomas explained. Concrete walls, steel door. Hidden behind the horse paddock. He nodded. I remembered that cellar. My father built it himself. Back when tornado seasons used to rip through the valley like angry beasts. But it had been locked for over a decade, sealed shut by windborne dust and disuse. We can hide, I said slowly. But for how long? Long enough to figure out our next move, Thomas said. Long enough to make Cutter come to the wrong conclusions. He grabbed his old leather coat from the rack and reached for the shotgun on the mantel. The sound of him loading shells made the kitchen feel smaller, more dangerous. Thomas, I warned carefully, this isn't the time to play hero. He paused, then looked at me with an expression both fierce and tender. I ain't playin' hero. I'm protectin' my family. Ethan's breath hitched at that word. Family. We leave in 5 minutes, Thomas said. Pack light. Nothing loud, nothing heavy. Once we're inside that cellar, we're ghosts. Ethan stood slowly, rubbing the fear from his eyes. Grandpa. They're probably watching the house. I know, Thomas said. Which is why we're taking the back route. He gestured toward the narrow mudroom exit, the one that opened into the old chicken yard. Hidden from the main road, shielded by tall grass. Ethan stiffened. If they see us. They won't, Thomas said. Not if you trust me. The boy hesitated, then nodded. We gathered what we could, water, blankets, a flashlight, a first aid kit. I tucked a photograph of Ethan as a toddler into my pocket, some part of me needing to carry a piece of peace into the unknown. Thomas grabbed the keys to the cellar. Rusted, old, heavy. He moved with the quiet confidence of a man who had survived threats like this before. But I knew better. Thomas wasn't young anymore. He wasn't fast. He wasn't bulletproof. And neither was our grandson. The wind outside howled low and angry as we stepped out the back door. Night had fallen thick over the ranch, swallowing the land in darkness. The grass whispered around our ankles as we crept through the yard, the barn looming like a shadowed giant on our left. We're almost there, Thomas whispered. Keep close. That was when I heard it. The soft metallic click of a rifle bolt sliding into place. Close. Too close. Ethan froze. Thomas's hand flew up. From the far ridge, silhouetted against the moonlight, 3 shapes stood, armed, waiting, watching. Cutter's men. And we were not ghosts. We were prey. Thomas pushed us down into the tall grass just as a bullet cracked through the air. The sound tore across the yard like lightning ripping open the sky. Ethan cried out, his breath catching as we hit the dirt. I covered his head with my hands on instinct. Thomas crouched beside us, shotgun held tight, jaw clenched. Stay down, he hissed. Another shot rang out, closer, sharper. A puff of dirt exploded inches from my hip. God help us, I whispered. The 3 silhouettes on the ridge moved with terrifying precision. They weren't amateurs. These were trained marksmen, men who didn't waste bullets. Men who had come to finish the job Ethan didn't. Thomas lifted his face enough to peer toward the barn. They're herding us, he muttered. Herding, Ethan whispered, shaking. Toward the open, Thomas said. Away from the cellar. I glanced toward the paddock. The cellar door lay 20 yards away, down an exposed strip of dirt with no cover. If we ran for it, we'd be nothing but moving targets. "Thomas, we can't make that distance," I whispered. "I know," he said. "That's why we ain't runnin' there yet." Another shot. This one hit the side of the barn, sending a splinter of wood flying. Ethan grabbed my arm. "What do they want? Why are they shooting already?" "To scare us out," Thomas said. "Keep us low. Drive us where Cutter wants us." "And where's that?" asked. Thomas's eyes hardened. "Toward him." My blood went cold. Cutter was close. Closer than we thought. Suddenly, Thomas grabbed Ethan's shoulder. "Son, listen to me carefully." Ethan nodded, eyes wide and terrified. "When I say run, you and your grandma head for the trough by the fence. Crawl behind it. Crawl, you hear me? Don't stand up." The boy swallowed. "What about you?" "I'll cover you." "No," I hissed. "Thomas, you'll expose yourself. They'll shoot you first." His expression softened with something like sad acceptance. "Someone has to be the shield. I won't let you." "You don't get a say," he whispered firmly. "I'm doing what I should have done 10 years ago. I'm protecting you, both of you." My throat clenched. Another bullet cracked through the night, and Thomas sucked in a sharp breath. "Time's up," he said. "Get ready." He shifted his weight, tightening his grip on the shotgun. His body coiled like a man preparing to leap in front of a train. "Thomas," I started. He cut me off with a whisper I'll never forget. "I love you. Now go." He sprang up from the grass. A shotgun blast erupted from his hands, echoing across the field. The recoil threw his shoulders back, but he kept firing 2-3 booming rounds. The ridge men scrambled, ducking behind rocks. "Run!" he roared. I grabbed Ethan's hand and bolted through the tall grass. A bullet screamed past my ear. The ground shook under another impact. Ethan stumbled, but I pulled him up, half dragging, half carrying him. "Keep down!" cried. We slid behind the water trough, our backs hitting the cold metal. My lungs burned. My heart felt like it was clawing out of my chest. Thomas's shotgun clicked empty. Silence. Too much silence. "Grandma," Ethan whispered, trembling violently. "Where is he?" I dared to peek over the trough, and my heart stopped. Thomas stood in the open, his shotgun discarded, hands raised. Facing a man stepping out from behind the barn's shadow. A man with slick hair, a smug grin, and a revolver pointed straight at my husband's chest. "Sheriff Boyd Cutter." Ethan grabbed my sleeve. "Grandma, that's him." That was him. The snake who had destroyed my family once already. The man who had turned my grandson into a weapon. And now he was 20 feet away, smiling as if he'd already won. "Thomas!" I screamed before I could stop myself. Cutter's grin widened. "Well, well," he drawled. "Looks like the whole family's home." Ethan trembled beside me, tears spilling down his cheeks. "Grandma," he whispered, voice breaking. "He's going to kill him." "Well, not if I had anything to say about it." For years I had stood behind Thomas, supported him, argued with him, fought beside him. But tonight I knew one thing with full, fiery certainty. If anyone was going to end this nightmare, it would be me. I didn't sleep that night, not even for a second. The house felt tense, as if the walls themselves were holding their breath. Each time I shut my eyes, I imagined Mateo standing at the foot of my bed, whispering that promise again. "Grandma, I will protect you." Whether it was a promise or a warning, I still couldn't tell. By dawn, the cold had settled deep into my bones. I made coffee, though my hands trembled too much to drink it, and watched the sky slowly brighten behind the hills. Ethan didn't come downstairs. Mateo didn't either. Their doors stayed shut, as silent as two secrets pressed against each other, both waiting to explode. But I had reached my breaking point. I needed answers, every one of them. Around 8 a.m., I grabbed my jacket and walked straight into Ethan's room without knocking. He was awake, sitting at the edge of his bed, staring at the floor like a man preparing his own eulogy. "Ethan," I said, my voice low but steady, "you're going to tell me the truth today. No more halfway answers. No more protecting anyone. No more fear." He lifted his head slowly. His cheeks were hollow, his eyes red-rimmed. "You look like you've been fighting yourself all night," I whispered. "I have," he murmured. "And I lost." I stood in front of him. "Tell me why Mateo was sent here. Tell me everything you've been hiding." He let out a shaky breath. And then the words tumbled out, quiet, heavy, and poisonous. "Mateo's father, my son, your stepson, Sam. He blames my father for everything. Losing the ranch. Losing his mother. Losing his childhood. He believes your husband ruined his life, and he wants revenge." My stomach twisted. Revenge. By sending his own child. "Yes," Ethan whispered. "Sam. He's dangerous now, Mom. He fell in with people who feed his anger. They told him that killing the man who stole everything would make him a legend. And he believed them." I pressed a hand to my mouth, trying not to break. But then Ethan said something worse. Much worse. He told Mateo that if he didn't do it, if he didn't kill my father, he would kill us. All of us. The room blurred. I grabbed the dresser to steady myself. "He threatened his own son." Croaked. Ethan nodded. "He conditioned him, trained him, manipulated him. Mateo didn't want to come. But Sam forced him." My voice cracked. "And you let him in here without telling me." Tears rolled down Ethan's cheeks. "He's still my son, Mom. I thought I could talk him out of it. I thought I could keep Mateo safe until Sam calmed down. But instead," I whispered, "you put my husband in the same house with the boy sent to kill him." Ethan dropped his head into his hands. I didn't know what else to do. A soft sound broke the silence. Turned. Mateo was standing in the doorway, his face pale, his fists tight. He had heard everything. "Grandma," he whispered, tears filling his eyes. "I didn't want to hurt him. Swear. I didn't want to hurt anyone." I felt my heart crack wide open. Slowly I stepped toward him. He didn't flinch. He didn't run. He just stood there, small, scared, and broken, like a child unsure whether he deserved love or punishment. When I reached him, I cupped his cold cheeks in my hands. "It's okay," I whispered. "It's okay." He shook his head violently. "No, it's not. He said he'd kill you. Kill Grandpa. Kill Uncle Ethan. He said if I didn't do it, he'd make me watch." His sobs ripped through the quiet house. And for the first time since this nightmare began, I felt something shift inside me. Fear didn't matter anymore. Anger didn't matter anymore. All that mattered was the trembling child in front of me, caught between a violent father and a grandfather he barely knew. I pulled him into my arms. He collapsed against me, crying so hard his whole body shook. When Mateo's sobs finally softened, I guided him inside and closed the door. Ethan sat frozen, guilt carved into every line on his face. I spoke calmly, but every word carried the weight of steel. "We're not waiting anymore. Sam is coming. And we need to be ready." Ethan swallowed. "Mom, what are you planning?" "I'm planning to protect this family," I said. "All of us. Including Mateo." Both of them looked at me, one with guilt, the other with fear. But I was done being afraid. "We're going to stop Sam," I said, "before he steps one foot onto this land." And for the first time, Mateo nodded. "Grandma," he whispered, "I'll help." I placed a hand on his shoulder. "No," I said. "You're done being a weapon. From now on, you're a child again." His eyes widened, hopeful, confused. And then he whispered, "What about Grandpa?" I exhaled slowly. "That," I said, "is what we'll deal with in part 7. The house was too quiet. Not the peaceful kind of quiet, no. This was the sharp, brittle stillness that comes right before a storm tears the whole sky open. I sat at the kitchen table with my hands wrapped around a cold cup of coffee. Ethan stood by the window, peeking through the curtains every few seconds like a man waiting for his executioner. And Mateo, my poor shaken boy, sat opposite me, twisting the hem of his sleeve, his small shoulders raised with anxiety. "Grandma," he whispered, "will Grandpa hate me?" The question sliced straight through me. "No," I said firmly. "Your grandfather will be scared, shocked, confused, but he won't hate you. Your child, Mateo. A child who was put in an impossible position." Ethan cleared his throat, still staring out toward the quiet ranch yard. "How do we tell my father?" he murmured. "If he hears it the wrong way, he'll lose his mind." "Decide. We won't tell him everything. Not yet. I'll talk to him alone. I know how to reach him." Mateo's voice broke again. "Will he send me away?" I reached across the table, resting my hand over his trembling fingers. "You're not going anywhere," I whispered. "You're safe here." He nodded weakly. But safety was a fragile thing. And we all knew it. I heard slow, heavy footsteps approaching before I saw him. My husband, James, walked into the kitchen with a groggy expression, still half asleep, rubbing his eyes like a man who had no idea a noose was tightening around him with every passing second. "Morning," he grumbled. "Why were you three sitting here like someone died?" He froze when he saw Mateo's red, swollen eyes. Something in his face softened. James had always had a weak spot for children, even the ones he barely knew. "Everything all right, son?" he asked gently. Mateo opened his mouth, but no sound came out. I stood up quickly. "James," I said softly, "come with me. We need to talk outside." His brows drew together. "What's going on?" "Please," I whispered. "Just come." He hesitated, then nodded. Before I stepped out, I gave Mateo a tiny nod. "You're okay." And he nodded back, "Go." As soon as we stepped onto the back porch, James turned to me. "You're scaring me. What's wrong?" The sky was still pale morning blue but felt heavy, oppressive. I took a deep breath. "We have a problem," I said quietly. "And it's going to take strength and patience, and a calm mind." "Just tell me," he pressed. So I did. But carefully, piece by piece, not all at once. "Mateo isn't just visiting because Ethan needed help," I began. "He's here because Sam asked him to be." His jaw tightened. "Sam? That boy hasn't spoken to me in years. Why would he send his son here?" "To get close to you," I said. He let out a cold, hollow laugh. "Lord, what now? He wants money. Land." "Another argument." I swallowed. "No, not an argument." James stilled. His face slowly drained of color. For a moment he couldn't speak. Then, voice thin and incredulous, "You're telling me Sam sent that child to kill me?" I closed my eyes briefly, then nodded. His breath left him in a sharp exhale. "My God," he whispered. "My own grandson." "James," I said firmly, stepping closer. "He didn't want to. Sam coerced him, threatened him. The boy is terrified. He needs help." But James's jaw clenched, eyes darkening with a rage I hadn't seen in years. "That man broke his own son," he muttered. "Twisted him. Used him. I should have taken Sam in myself when his mother died. Maybe none of this would have happened." He turned toward the yard, fists balled so tight his knuckles whitened. "We're calling the sheriff," he said. "Right now." "No," I snapped, sharper than I intended. "We can't do that." He whipped around. "Why the hell not?" "Because Sam is already on his way." Silence. "What?" "Mateo said Sam threatened to kill all of us if he didn't do it. That means he's watching. He's tracking. He knows Mateo didn't follow through." James stared at me, horror settling into his bones. "So he's coming here, personally?" He nodded. "Yes. That's why we need to stay together. No sudden moves. No calls that could alert him." James exhaled shakily and sat heavily on the porch step. I never thought my own blood would become my enemy, he whispered. I placed a hand on his shoulder. Not your blood, I corrected softly. Sam's anger, the people he's mixed up with, that's the enemy. He looked up at me. And what about Mateo? That child, I said, voice trembling, is ours now. We protect him. No matter what. James covered his face with both hands. But when he lowered them, there was new steel in his eyes. If Sam is coming, he said, then we prepare. He nodded. Yes, I said. We do. We walked back inside. Ethan stood immediately. Mateo jumped to his feet. James stared at Mateo, not with hatred, not with fear, but with something deeper. Recognition. Resolve. He walked to the boy, knelt in front of him, and placed a hand on his trembling shoulder. Son, he said quietly, none of this is your fault. Not a single piece of it. And you're safe here. Do you hear me? Safe. Mateo burst into tears. And James pulled him into a fierce, protective hug. For the first time, the 3 generations stood together. One broke the family. One hid the fracture. One was nearly used as the weapon. But in that small kitchen, we formed something stronger than fear. A line Sam would have to cross. And he was already on his way. The sky shifted sometime around noon, thickening into a rolling mass of dark clouds that pressed low over the ranch. Even the horses were restless, snorting, stamping, kicking at invisible threats. The air had that metallic taste, the kind that warns of a storm bigger than the weather. Inside the house we moved like shadows around one another, quiet, alert, listening for every sound. James paced. Ethan checked the windows again and again. And Mateo stayed close to me, holding the edge of my sweater like a small child searching for safety. I wished I could pluck him out of this nightmare and place him somewhere clean, somewhere soft, somewhere where evil didn't wear the face of a parent. But life doesn't deal in gentleness. Not in the places broken men choose to walk. The sound of the house telephone slicing through the silence made all 3 of us jump. James reached it first. He hesitated only for a heartbeat before answering. Hello. His whole body stiffened. Then his voice changed. Old anger, old pain, leaking into each word. Sam. My breath froze in my throat. Even across the room I could hear it, the smooth, poisonous voice on the other end. A voice I once knew as a boy. A voice I now knew as a threat. Dad, Sam drawled, calm in the way only unhinged men manage. I hear you've met my son properly. James's free hand curled into a trembling fist. Leave the boy out of this, he said through gritted teeth. You want to come for me? Fine. I'm right here. But Mateo stays in this house where he's safe. A soft chuckle slid through the receiver. A chilling sound. That's sweet, Sam said. But you don't get to make the rules anymore. James stiffened. Ethan stepped forward like he might snatch the phone away. I held him back. You think you can hide him? Sam continued, his tone suddenly sharp. He's my son. I decide what happens to him. No, James snapped. You lost that right long ago. Another pause. Then Sam's voice lowered to something even worse. I'm already on the road, Dad. And when I get there we'll settle everything. Once and for all. The line went dead. James lowered the phone slowly. I had seen my husband angry. Furious even. I had seen him broken. But I had never seen him afraid. His eyes met mine across the room. He's not bluffing. Ethan ran a hand through his hair. We have to call the sheriff. Now. James shook his head quickly. If we call anyone, Sam will see the cruisers coming. If he panics, God help us all. Then what? Ethan snapped. James looked at Mateo. We stay together. No one steps outside those doors. And when Sam arrives, I'll talk to him. Talk. Ethan barked. Dad, the man sent a child to kill you. James didn't flinch. If Sam wants blood, he said quietly, then it should be mine. Not yours. Not Mateo's. Ethan stared at him like he was losing his mind. But I knew James better. This wasn't surrender. It was sacrifice. The terrible kind only a parent could understand. Matteo suddenly stood, fists shaking, tears spilling down his cheeks. "It's my fault," he cried. "He's coming because I didn't do it. I should have done what he said." "No," I said sharply, pulling him close. "Don't you say that. Don't you ever say that." He collapsed against me, sobbing. "You don't know him," Matteo choked. "When he gets angry, he doesn't stop. He doesn't care. He'll kill you. All of you." Ethan crouched beside him. "He's not touching you," he said firmly. "Not while we're here. Not while I'm breathing." James knelt too, laying both hands on the boy's shoulders. "Matteo, listen to me," he said quietly. "None of this is your burden anymore. You're not responsible for Sam's sins. You're a child who survived a monster." Matteo looked up, small face trembling. "But what if he kills you?" James exhaled slowly. "Then he kills me standing between him and you." Matteo let out a strangled sob. And Ethan broke. He reached forward and pulled his son into his arms like he'd never let him go again. As the storm clouds pressed lower, the ranch seemed to grow smaller, like the world outside was shrinking, funneling danger straight toward us. I stood at the window, watching the long empty road stretching into the horizon, waiting for a car, or truck, or motorcycle, or whatever Sam had chosen as his weapon. The house felt like a fortress, thin one, fragile one, the kind that could withstand anything except betrayal from its own blood. James stepped beside me, his voice low. "He'll be here before nightfall." He nodded. "Are you ready?" I asked. He didn't lie. "No," he whispered. "But I'll face him anyway." I slid my hand into his. Cold fingers intertwined with mine. And together we stood, watching that long road, waiting for the man who used to be our son. Our greatest mistake. Our darkest shadow. Our coming storm. Dusk crawled across the sky like a bruise spreading over pale skin. The sun dipped low, bleeding orange into purple, and with it came a tension so thick it felt like breathing through cloth. We didn't speak. Didn't move much. Every sound, the creak of the floorboards, the rustle of curtains, felt amplified, intrusive, wrong. Matteo sat curled on the couch, knees to his chest, eyes locked on the front door as if waiting for a nightmare to climb through it. Ethan hovered near him, hand on his shoulder. His body coiled like a man ready to fight something bigger than he was. James stood by the window, staring toward the long dirt road like he could will time to slow down. I stood between them all, heart beating hard enough to bruise my ribs. Headlights appeared. A single vehicle. Low. Deliberate. Hungry. It rolled down the dirt path, kicking dust into the dying light. My stomach twisted. "He's here," James whispered. A shiver shot up my spine. It wasn't a sheriff's cruiser. Not a neighbor's truck. Not some passerby. It was Sam's. Even after all those years, I recognized its dented right fender and mismatched paint. An old, mean-looking sedan, tough enough to outrun consequences, old enough to tell a story of every crime it had fled. The car rolled to a stop just outside the porch steps. The engine idled, growled, threatened. Matteo whimpered silently. Ethan tightened his grip on his shoulder. James inhaled slowly, preparing himself like a man walking to his own execution. "He'll come to the door," James murmured. "Let me handle it. No one do anything unless I tell you." Ethan's jaw ticked. "Dad." "No," James said, turning sharply. "This ends with me." He looked at Matteo, voice softening. "Only for him. You're safe now, son." The boy burst into fresh tears. And James stepped toward the door. The knock wasn't loud. It was worse. Measured. Like a predator tapping its claws on a cage. James placed his hand on the doorknob. My heart pounded so violently I almost reached out to stop him. But he looked at me, just once, and I saw something devastating in his eyes. One part fear. One part regret. One part love. And resignation. He opened the door. He stood on the porch with the evening wind lifting strands of his unkempt hair. His face shadowed until he leaned forward. And that's when I saw him clearly. The boy I once held. The boy whose laughter used to fill our home. But this man wasn't the boy we raised. His eyes were cold, too familiar with darkness. He smiled, but it didn't reach those eyes. "Hey, Dad." James stood tall, blocking the doorway with quiet authority. "Sam," he said evenly. "You're not welcome here." Sam's smile widened faintly. "Is that any way to greet your son? You stopped being my son the day you chose this path." Sam shrugged, stepping one foot onto the porch. "Well, we all choose paths. Some end in blessings. Some in curses." His eyes slid past James, scanning the interior, searching for Mateo. James stepped sideways, blocking his view. "You don't come in." Sam chuckled softly. "You think you can protect him from me? After all these years, you still believe you can control anything." James didn't flinch. "You're sick, Sam. You need help." "Oh, I do," Sam said. "But I'm not the one who's about to die tonight." A chill ran down my spine. Ethan took a step forward, fists clenched. But James held up a hand. "Don't." He faced Sam again. "You're not killing anyone." Sam tilted his head. "Then tell me where he is." "No." Sam's smile vanished. In its place grew a cold glare. "You always choose anyone over me. Friends, workers, even that boy you adopted. You never forgave me for being the weak one, did you?" James breathed in slowly. "You weren't weak, Sam. You were hurting. And instead of letting us help, you chased every demon that whispered to you." Sam's jaw twitched. "Oh, now you want to do therapy on the porch," he sneered. "Save it." He took a step closer. James held his ground. "Go home, Sam," he said quietly. "No," Sam whispered. And in that moment, I saw the war in his eyes. The fury, the betrayal, the twisted reason, the years of resentment hardening into a single purpose. "I came here to finish what Mateo couldn't," Sam said. "One way or another." The evening wind stilled. The air thickened. And behind James, Mateo let out a tiny, strangled gasp. Sam's gaze snapped past his father, and he saw him. Mateo froze like a deer caught in headlights. Sam's expression contorted, rage, hurt, and something primal. "That's right," he growled. "Come here, boy." Ethan moved instantly, stepping between Sam and his son. "You step into this house," he warned, voice trembling with fury, "and you won't walk out." Sam smirked. "Oh, going to fight me, little brother?" "Try me," Ethan hissed. James raised both hands, voice firm but imploring. "Sam, listen to me." But Sam wasn't listening anymore. His eyes burned. His teeth clenched. And hatred poured off him in waves. I stood frozen in the hallway, watching the worst moment of our lives unfold, helpless to stop it, until Sam reached inside his coat. And I saw metal glint beneath the porch light. A gun, aimed at James. Mateo screamed. "No!" Time slowed. Slowed so much I could hear the blood pounding in my ears, could feel every heartbeat like a fist against my ribs, could see each particle of dust drifting lazily in the dying sun. Sam raised the gun. James froze. Ethan lunged forward. Mateo screamed. And I moved without thought, without breath, without fear. A mother's instinct is older than reason. I grabbed James's arm and yanked him backward just as the porch exploded with the crack of the gunshot. The bullet tore through the doorframe where his chest had been a second before. Splinters rained like sharp rain. James stumbled into me, eyes wide in shock. "Go!" shouted. "Inside now." But Sam was already stepping into the doorway, fury twisting his face. "You think you can save him?" he snarled. "You think I'm walking away again?" Ethan shoved Mateo behind the kitchen counter, shielding him with his body. Mateo covered his ears, eyes squeezed shut, tears streaming down his cheeks. James turned back toward his son, toward Sam, not running, not hiding. He stepped between me and the gun. "No more," he said, voice low but steady. "No more blood in this family." Sam lifted the gun again. And James took a step toward him. "You want to kill me?" James asked quietly. "Fine. Do it. But look at me while you pull that trigger." Sam's hand trembled. "Not much but enough." "You don't tell me what to do," he spat. "You never did. I was never enough for you." "You were everything," James said softly. "And I failed you. I know that now." Sam blinked. Confusion flickered across his face. "You failed me." "Yes." James's voice dropped to a whisper. "When your mother died, I fell apart. I expected you to be strong when I couldn't be. That was my mistake, not yours. You were a child. A grieving child." Sam swallowed hard. His grip on the gun wavered. "You didn't care," he muttered. "I cared so much I drowned," James said. "And I left you alone. I'm sorry." A tear slid down Sam's cheek. "You lie," he whispered. "No," James said. "Not today." He took another step. Sam jerked the gun up again, hands shaking violently. "Don't," Sam warned. "Don't come closer." But James didn't stop. "You came here tonight expecting hate," he said. "But all I have left for you is the love I should have shown you years ago." Sam choked on a breath. His face contorted. Broken boy. Broken man. Broken father. Tortured by the ghosts he carried. And in that fragile moment when madness cracked just enough for something human to show, Matteo stood up. He stepped out from behind the counter with tears streaking his cheeks. "Dad," he whispered. Sam's head snapped toward him. Something shattered in him. Something old. Something poisoned. Something rotten. He let out a tortured cry. A sound that wasn't rage anymore. It was grief. Raw, endless grief. He lowered the gun slightly. "Matteo," Sam whispered, voice shaking. And the boy, God bless his fragile courage, took one trembling step toward his father. "You don't have to do this," Matteo said through sobs. Sam looked at him like he was staring at salvation and damnation at once. "I'm sorry," he choked. But then, behind him down the driveway, flashing blue and red lights, the sheriff's cruisers. Ethan must have called them quietly while James talked. Sam saw the lights, and everything changed in an instant. His eyes widened. "No, no, no." He raised the gun again, wild, panicked. Ethan shouted, "Dad, get down." But James didn't move. He stepped in front of Sam's aim. Not running. Not hiding. Shielding his grandson. Shielding his son. Shielding all of us. "Sam," he whispered, "please." The porch lit up again with a violent flash. Another gunshot. But this time, it wasn't Sam's. The sheriff's deputy, seeing the weapon raised, had taken the shot. Sam staggered backward, eyes wide, breath caught in his throat. He looked at James, then at Matteo, then at me. A strange peace washed over his face, like he finally understood something too big for words. He dropped the gun and fell. Matteo screamed. Ethan grabbed him tightly, dragging him back as deputies swarmed the porch. James rushed forward, falling to his knees beside Sam's collapsing body. Sam coughed, blood staining his lips. "Dad," he whispered. James cradled his son's face, voice breaking for the first time in years. "I'm here," he choked. "I'm here, Sam. Hold on." Sam's eyes fluttered. His chest rose once. A final, shallow breath escaped him, and he went still. James let out a sound so painful it tore straight through me. A sound I will hear for the rest of my life. The deputies cleared the house. Statements were taken. Bodies moved. Sirens faded. But none of it mattered. Not compared to James sitting on the porch, holding his dead son's hand, rocking back and forth like a man whose heart had finally broken in half. Ethan sat with Matteo wrapped tightly against him, the boy sobbing uncontrollably. I stood between them all, unable to comfort one without hurting the other. Slate gray dawn eventually pushed the night away. But nothing chased away the heaviness in our home. Sam was gone. But so was the illusion that we could outrun the past. James finally rose, eyes hollow but resolute. He placed a hand on Mateo's head. "None of this," he whispered, voice trembling, "was your fault." Mateo nodded weakly. "But I knew the road ahead would be long, haunted, heavy, for all of us." James turned toward the rising sun. "We bury him," he said. "We bury him here, where he was born, where he was loved, where we failed him." And though grief flooded me, he nodded. "Because love, real love, isn't clean. It is messy. It is brutal. It is terrifying. But it is the only thing stronger than blood. And stronger than death." Don't forget to hit the subscribe button.